Take a banknote out of your pocket and really look at it. It's just paper. And these days, it's usually not even that, just numbers on a screen. It has value for exactly one reason, because we all agree that it does. Every single one of us, at the same time. That agreement took thousands of years to build, and more than once in history it has completely fallen apart. This is the story of money. Chapter 1. The problem. Before money, the idea was barter. You have grain, I have a goat, we trade. Simple enough. But what if you want my goat and I don't want your grain? Then there's no deal at all. Trade only worked when two people each wanted exactly what the other had at the very same moment. Economists call it the double coincidence of wants. It's as clumsy as it sounds. Imagine paying a doctor with half a cow, or saving for winter in fish that rots in a week. Barter simply does not scale. An entire economy can barely function like this. People needed something better, something in the middle. Chapter 2. A common thing. The societies picked one thing that everybody would accept. Cowrie shells, salt, cattle, beads, even giant stone discs on one Pacific island. It's buried in our language to this day. The word salary comes from salt, the word capital comes from cattle. Now you didn't need a perfect match anymore. You sold your grain for shells, and your shells could buy anything. The first medium of exchange. And good money has to do three jobs at once. Be a way to trade, a way to store value for later, and a way to measure what things are worth. Money, in other words, was humanity's first great technology. Invisible but suddenly everywhere. Chapter 3. The first coin. Around 600 BC, in the kingdom of Lydia, in what is now Turkey, someone stamped a lump of metal with the head of a lion. It was made of electrum, a natural alloy of gold and silver. These were the world's first coins. The stamp was a promise, a guaranteed weight, and a guaranteed purity. For the first time, trust came in a form you could hold in your hand. Coinage spread across Greece and Rome, and rulers put their own faces on it. Money became propaganda and a symbol of who was in charge. But they soon learned a dangerous trick. Mix in a little cheap metal and mint more coins from the same gold. Roman emperors did this for centuries, until their silver coin was barely silver at all. It was, in effect, one of the first great inflations. The lesson was set 3,000 years ago. Whoever controls the supply of money quietly controls its value. Chapter 4. Why Gold Won. Of everything humans ever tried as money, one thing kept winning across almost every culture on Earth. Gold. It doesn't rust or rot. It's genuinely rare. You can divide it and melt it back together, and you cannot fake it, or simply print more of it. Gold didn't win because of tradition. It won because it quietly ticked every single box that good money needs. And gold's supply grows only 1 or 2% a year, dug slowly from the ground. Hard to make more, and that was exactly the point. And that grip never fully let go. It's why even today, the central banks of the world still hoard thousands of tons of it. Chapter 5. Paper Promises. There was one problem with golden coins. Carrying them around was heavy and dangerous, so China invented something far lighter. Around the 10th century, merchants in Chengdu issued the jiaozi, paper notes you could redeem for coins, the world's first true paper money. It was a quiet revolution. Value no longer had to be heavy. A fortune could finally fit inside your pocket. When Marco Polo saw it centuries later, he could barely believe it. A ruler turning cheap paper into the value of gold just by decree. In Europe, goldsmiths did much the same. You left your gold in their vault and they handed you a paper receipt for it. Soon people just traded the receipts and left the gold sitting in the vault. The paper itself had become the money. Chapter 6. The Anchor. For centuries this was the deal. Paper money was a claim, a promise that real gold was sitting, waiting, in a vault. Every note could in theory be swapped back for a fixed weight of metal. This was the gold standard, and it kept governments honest. It also tied their hands. You could only make as much money as you had gold to back it. Prices were stable, but the system was rigid. Too little gold, and the economy could choke for lack of money. The anchor was a discipline, and sometimes a straitjacket. After the Second World War, the world tied its currencies to the US dollar and the dollar to gold at $35 an ounce. Chapter 7. The Break. But there was a flaw. To pay for the Vietnam War and a wave of new spending, America was printing more dollars than it had gold to back. Other countries noticed and began demanding their gold in exchange. The vault was being drained. So on the 15th of August 1971, President Nixon went on live television and quietly cut the link. Dollars could no longer be exchanged for gold. He called it temporary. It was never reversed. Every major currency on Earth now floats, anchored to nothing physical at all. In a single announcement, the entire world moved to fiat money, currency backed by nothing but the promise of the government that issues it. Chapter 8, Backed by Trust. So if it isn't gold anymore, what gives a modern dollar its value? It comes down to one word: trust. Trust that the shop will take it, trust that your government won't print too much of it, and trust that tomorrow it will still buy a loaf of bread. A currency is really a country's reputation made spendable. Strong country, strong money. Shaky country, shaky money. It helps that the government demands its taxes in that same currency. That alone forces everyone to want it. Money is also law. Strip everything away, and money is just a giant shared ledger, a record of who owes what. A story that works only because we all agree to believe it. Chapter 9. When money dies. But trust can break. When a government prints far too much, every note buys a little less. That's inflation, and it can spiral. In Germany, in 1923, it went berserk. Before the First World War, $1 bought about 4 German marks. By November 1923, $1 cost over 4 trillion marks. Prices on a restaurant menu could rise before you finished your meal. People burned banknotes for heat because it was cheaper than buying firewood. Workers were paid twice a day and rushed to spend it before lunch. And Germany was not the last. Zimbabwe, Venezuela, and others have watched their money die the very same way, within living memory. Lifetimes of savings vanished in months. The chaos it left behind helped extremism take root, with consequences the whole world would feel. Notice the key thing: the paper never changed, the trust did, and once trust is gone, money is just paper again. Chapter 10. Digital Scarcity. Today, most money isn't even printed, it's digital. Numbers in the bank's database, created and moved with a keystroke. Since 1971, the amount of money in the world has exploded, part of why a dollar today buys a small fraction of what it once did. Then in 2009, something new appeared: Bitcoin, money with no government, no bank, and a hard limit baked in. Instead of one bank keeping the ledger, thousands of computers each keep an identical copy, so no single person can secretly rewrite it or print more. Gold scarcity came from geology. Bitcoins comes from mathematics. The same old idea by a brand new method. Only 21 million Bitcoin can ever exist. Not by tradition, but enforced by code. After thousands of years, hard scarcity was back. It's volatile, it's unproven, and it may not last. But it forced the world to ask the oldest question all over again: what should we trust as money? From shells to coins to gold to paper to pure code, the object we use keeps changing. But underneath, money has always been the very same thing: a shared belief, a way to measure trust between strangers. It works only for as long as we all agree that it does, and history shows that agreement is far more fragile than it feels. Money is simply the story we tell each other about value. This film is history and education. It is not financial advice.